Welcome to a story of two legendary Italian motorcycle brands, rivals whose paths crossed in ways that shaped the future of modern motorcycles. One rose to the top and became a dominant force, while the other is still fighting to reclaim its past glory. This is a story of MV Agusta, once the fastest and most successful name in motorcycle racing, and Ducati, now a powerhouse in the motorcycle world. But how did MV Agusta lose its crown? Can they ever make a comeback? Stick around as we dive into why MV Agusta might just take back the throne. MV Agusta has an incredibly rich history. What if I told you that the man who started MV Agusta built flying machines? Well, that's a bit of a stretch, but it's pretty close. Count Giovanni Agusta, a Sicilian aristocrat, did in fact build flying machines, and founded the Agusta Aeronautics Company in 1907. But Giovanni had no interest at all in motorcycles. His company went from an aviation service and repair company to producing its own models of aeroplanes for the Regia Aeronautica, Italy's Royal Air Force. When Count Giovanni died in 1927, his son Domenico expanded the business, but after World War I, the aeroplane industry had dramatically declined, and Domenico decided to expand into motorcycles. The Agustas focused on motorcycles and created the MV brand in 1945. MV, which stands for Meccanica Bergera. In the autumn of 1945, the MV-98 was born, and in 1947, Franco Bertoni rode it to the first ever MV Agusta victory on the racetrack in Carate Brianza, near Milan. Bertoni's win would be the first of a long streak of MV Agusta victories that lasted for decades. MV Agusta experimented with the latest technological advances, and the wins on the racetracks boosted the sales of its road models. Domenico therefore kept investing in the best machines and most skilled riders. In 1951, he hired Leslie Graham, an ex-RAF pilot, to ride the twin-cam MV-125 to its first victory at Thruxton, England. In 1955, the Agustas decided to go back to their old love for flying machines and acquired the license for the production of Bell helicopters, giving birth to Agusta Helicopters, which is still around today and owned by Leonardo, one of the largest aerospace defense and security companies in the world, with over 60,000 people and 129 sites worldwide. In 1956, Domenico hired Carlo Ubiali to race in the 125 and 250cc class, where the Italian took 5 world championships in the 125 class and 2 in the 250cc class. In the same year, John Surtees won MV Agusta's first world championship in the 500cc class. In 1961, Mike Hailwood, one of the greatest riders of all time, joined the racing team and was the winner of the 1965 Tourist Trophy on the 500cc. However, true racing domination would begin in 1965. Enter Giacomo Agostini and MV's inline 3-cylinder engine. Giacomo Agostini, or Argo as he was known, went on to win 311 races, 13 World Championship titles, and 18 Italian titles. He called an end to his career in 1976 at Nürburgring, at the peak of the company's glory. Succeeding Argo was Phil Reed, who went on to win 6 world championships. After Domenico Agusta's death, his brother Corrado took over, but in 1973 he sold his share of the business to EFIM, a public financing group. In 1977, EFIM decided to take a break from motorcycle manufacturing and racing, after 37 world championships and a total production of 260,000 bikes. This was a significant turning point in the company's dominance and would signal the end of MV Agusta's reign as a highly recognized and successful motorcycle manufacturer. To understand how the modern Ducati was born, we must first delve into the history of a legend, Massimo Tamburini. Massimo Tamburini was one of the pillars of the prestigious Bimota brand in Rimini, which he founded in 1973, together with his colleagues Bianchi and Motti. After 11 years at Bimota, Tamburini joined Roberto Gallina's team in 500cc, but later began working on the Castiglioni brothers' ambitious project to relaunch the Cagiva brand. The Castiglioni brothers Claudio and Gianfranco Castiglioni had acquired Ducati in 1985, and Massimo began working on the development of the new Ducati bikes. With an elegant and sporty style, one of the first models he created was the Ducati Passo 750, being characterized by a cutting-edge line and showy fairing. But it was in 1993 that Tamburini's most famous creation was born, the Ducati 916. One of the most influential bike designs at the end of the 20th century. This bike was so beautiful and so well designed that for many years Ducati only made minor changes to it. It is often reported that without the birth of the 916, the Ducati brand may not be around today. Massimo Tamburini's impact on the brand was unparalleled by any single person at the company. He had very clear ideas about what a real Ducati for him represented. A bike that did not have to imitate Japanese creations, but to shape its own peculiar style. To this day, Ducati has persisted with the general shape of the 916, and each time they decided to be risky with their designs and break away, they suffered significant losses and low sales. Take the Ducati 999 Superbike. To me, it is one of the most beautiful bikes to be produced by Ducati, and for this reason, it was the first Ducati I ever purchased. However, I knew it had an odd and controversial shape. When I went to the dealers to purchase my first Ducati in 2005, I test rode a 916 and a 999. The two were worlds apart. The 999 was amazing in every way, and the shape with oddly staggered headlights, little front fairing wings, and rear underseat exhaust were the features that attracted me to the bike, but I knew it was way ahead of its time. Ducati saw sales slump in this period, and in 2007, they went back to their classic shape and released the Ducati 1098. Since the release of the 1098, they have enjoyed record-breaking sales and an immense surge in popularity. However, as experienced by MV Agusta, building beautiful and fast bikes doesn't guarantee success. But how did Ducati build an incredible brand and an almost cult following all around the world? Now let's take a trip back to 1992. Claudio Castiglioni, who owned Cagiva motorcycles on the shores of Lake Barese, acquired the dormant MV Agusta trademark. Remember, they had not produced a motorcycle since 1977. Generations had passed, and the MV Agusta name was no longer familiar with many racing enthusiasts, as much as the company would like to believe they were. I was only 2 years old when the Agusta brand decided to quit producing motorcycles. When I started watching MotoGP in the late 90s, I had not even heard of the MV Agusta brand, let alone their rich and dominant racing history. In 1996, the Castiglionis sold a 51% stake of their Ducati brand to Texas Pacific Group for around $325 million US, and Cagiva restructured under the name MV Agusta. So what would Claudio Castiglioni bring to the MV brand? And how would he kick off a resurgence and hype around the amazing MV Agusta? Enter Massimo Tamburini once again, the man who literally saved Ducati. In 1997, Massimo Tamburini decided to continue working for the Cagiva Group and to design MV Agusta bikes of the future. In 1999, the F4 750 sports bike still considered amongst the most beautiful bikes ever built, is designed by Massimo. It is a tumultuous time for Agusta, and in 2002, they go into receivership and government control. It is completely inconceivable that a company who have just produced one of the most beautiful bikes of all time is facing bankruptcy. Between 2004 and 2010, MV Agusta is bought and sold 4 times, with the latest purchase being from Harley-Davidson in 2008 for $109 million. However, the unthinkable happens, and in 2010, it is sold back to Claudio Castiglioni for €1, with $20 million cash in MV Agusta's accounts, effectively paying Claudio to take back the brand. In 2011, Claudio loses his battle with cancer at the age of only 64 years old, and his son Giovanni becomes the CEO and president of MV Agusta. In 2017, MV Agusta is owned by Giovanni Castiglioni and Timur Sardarov. And in 2018, Sardarov becomes the CEO of MV Agusta. In 2019, the Sardarov family acquires 100% of MV Agusta, with Giovanni assuming an advisory role with the company. There were many factors contributing to the failure of Agusta's F4 sales. I can sit here and rattle off what the internet claims it is, but I lived through this era, and my opinion as a buyer is as good as anyone's. In 2008 and 2009, MV Agusta released the F4 1078, 312R, and RR models. This was to be Massimo Tamburini's last F4 model design, and the most powerful bike yet. It boasted an incredible 190 horsepower and was known for its hyper-acceleration and acclaimed top speed of 312 km per hour, hence the 312 designation. It was valued at around $25,000 brand new back in 2009, which was much cheaper than the 2009 Ducati 1198R Corse, which was $38,000. But more expensive than the 1198S, which was around $21,000. If you consider what MV Agusta F4 offered, it packed a lot of value into $25,000. If you compare components alone though, the Ducati used more renowned and recognized Öhlins suspensions and forks, while the F4 used Sachs rear shocks and Marzocchi front forks. The Ducati used Brembo brakes front and rear, whilst the F4 used Brembo fronts but Nissan brakes on the rear. Comparing the two models closest in price, the 1198S performance was down on the F4, producing 170 horsepower with a dry weight of 169 kilograms, whilst the F4 produced 190 horsepower but had a dry weight of 192 kilograms. In terms of build quality and finishing, you just can't go past the F4. I own one, so I feel I'm as good as a judge as any. So why did the F4 fail? Let's break down some of the reasons. The main one being that MV Agusta just didn't have the same reputation as Ducati. Ducati were winning superbikes and making headway in MotoGP. The F4 was relatively unknown, and people were concerned with the number of dealerships and the cost of servicing. MV Agusta only had one model of superbike, the F4. Ducati offered 3 models, the base model, the sport, and the R race models. The base model was very affordable, at around $16,500. It didn't have the fancy Öhlins rear suspension and front forks, but still delivered 170 horsepower at only 171 kilos of dry weight. Finally, resale and resale value. If you've ever owned any motorcycle at all, you know that not all motorcycles are created equal. Some hold their value and are easy to sell. Others are very difficult and lose a lot of value. The F4 fits into the latter category. During the early 1990s, Cagiva enduro bikes powered by Ducati engines took the podium places in the Great African Rally events. The development of water-cooled 4-valve 2-cylinder engines paid off for Ducati in the newly created World Superbike Championship, with the birth of the Ducati 851 in 1987. The brand enjoyed a period of dominance from 1990 onwards, with a sustained string of victories over its large volume competitors. The Ducati 851 and 888 family won 3 consecutive World Superbike Championships in 1990, 1991, and 1992. The 916, 996, and 998 range were nothing to sneeze at. They won a total of 8 Superbike World Championships between 1994 and 2004, 4 of those alone on the 916. The 999 was amazing in every way, and this was evident on the track in World Superbikes, winning 3 championships in 2003, 2004, and 2006. In 2008, Troy Bayliss would win his final World Superbike Championship on the Ducati 1098, the 1198 winning the 2011 World Superbike Championship. From here, Ducati would not win another World Superbike Championship until 2022 and 2023, winning both years on the Ducati Panigale V4. In 2003, Ducati entered the pinnacle of motorcycle racing, the MotoGP class. It would take 5 years for Ducati to win a world championship in 2007 with Casey Stoner. But this was not a normal win. Casey Stoner was not a normal rider, and most riders struggled to tame the Desmosedici. Ducati signed championship-winning riders such as Nicky Hayden in 2009, Valentino Rossi in 2011, and Jorge Lorenzo in 2017, but none of them could ride the Desmosedici like Casey Stoner. After Casey Stoner left Ducati, it would be more than a decade before Ducati would experience success again. Ducati persisted, and in 2020 and 2021, signs of a turnaround were imminent. Ducati won the Constructors' MotoGP World Championship both years, for the second and third time ever. In 2022, the shift was now undeniable. Ducati had become the bike to beat. Francesco Pecco Bagnaia became the second Ducati World Champion, winning the championship in both 2022 and 2023. In 2024, Ducati continued their dominance, winning the world title again with Jorge Martin on a satellite Pramac Ducati, which Ducati had generously shared its latest 2024 factory engine with, hence cementing their dominance in the standings. Ducati has gone from strength to strength, building its brand and a whole community of Ducatisti, which is a name used for the passionate enthusiasts of Ducati motorcycles. Ducatisti are known for their strong passion and loyalty to the brand. In 1998, Ducati kicked off a factory publicity event called World Ducati Week. It has since grown into a large global event for Ducatisti and motorcycle enthusiasts. It is held every 2 years at the Misano World Circuit in the beautiful Misano Adriatico. World Ducati Week is a celebration of Ducati motorcycles and includes riding experiences, exhibitions, on and off-track sessions, meetings with riders and legends, and more. The 3 days of World Ducati Week 2024 welcomed 94,000 visitors, as the 12th edition of the biggest Ducati event made history at Misano World Circuit, represented by motorcyclists and Ducatisti from 86 nations. I attended World Ducati Week back in 2007, and I was amazed at how big the event was back then. Ducati had not even won a MotoGP championship at the time, but their boy Casey Stoner had started the 2007 season off in amazing style. He would later go on to win the championship. How did Ducati build such a strong brand without a single MotoGP win? Ducati built beautiful bikes, but so did MV Agusta. Ducati had competed and won many Superbike World Championships. MV Agusta had won the Premier Class 37 times, but it was so long before their resurgence. Ducati had a large range of motorcycles, and this range today caters for every type of rider, from superbikes, naked, cruiser, scrambler, multistrada, tourer, The list goes on, with multiple bikes within each range. It has taken Agusta a long time, but their range of styles is still comparatively smaller than Ducati. They have extended their range with their own touring model, the Turismo Veloce, and have gone back to their roots with an inline 3-cylinder F3. They've also added the stunning Super Veloce and continued their run of naked models with the Brutale, Rush, and Dragster, and MV Agusta's first ever all-terrain motorcycle, the LXP Odioli. With a lot of work still to do, MV Agusta are expanding their range and are aiming to expand their global dealer network, with plans to reach 250 dealerships by the end of 2025, including 41 service points and 20 non-European importers, while maintaining a focus on exclusivity and innovation. In March 2024, KTM AG acquired a major stake in MV Agusta. This deal was so promising for Agusta, and many people thought this would be the beginning of their racing comeback. However, with KTM facing financial problems of its own, including substantial debt and declining sales, it entered a self-administration process to navigate restructuring. Part of the restructuring meant that their majority stake in MV Agusta was sold back to the Sadarov family. The return to racing for MV Agusta came when Giovanni Castiglioni signed an agreement with Yuknish Motorsport to establish the new MV Agusta Reparto Corse for the 2014 season. The team was operated by Yuknish Motorsport and competed in the World Supersport and World Superbike Championships. MV Agusta competed in World Superbikes briefly from 2014 to 2018, only achieving a best 8th place in the Riders' Championship in 2016 and 2017. MV Agusta withdrew from World Superbikes primarily due to declining sales, financial difficulties, and regulatory changes. They also had a brief stint in Moto2 under the Forward Racing collaboration from 2019 to 2023. Here, MV Agusta would bring their F2 to the track, achieving a Best Team Championship position of 3rd in 2020 and a Best Riders' Championship of 19th in 2019. It was not a good run for MV Agusta in Moto2, and in January 2023, Forward Racing announced the end of their collaboration with MV Agusta. But the 2014 Supersport World Championship, MV Agusta fielded Jules Cluzel and Vladimir Leonov on race-prepared F3 675s. Cluzel scored 3 wins for the team and finished 2nd in the championship that season. Results were up and down in the following years, but from 2020 onwards, MV Agusta seemed to find some winning form. They finished with a Riders' Championship position of 3rd in 2023 by Marcel Scrotter, and 3rd in the Constructors' Championship in 2020, 2021, 2023 and 2024. Currently, in 2025, at the time of making this video, Bo Ben Snyder is currently 2nd in the Riders' Championship and Agusta are 2nd in the Constructors' Championship. With more than half the season remaining, things are definitely looking promising in World Supersport. As someone who owns both a Ducati and MV Agusta motorcycle, it's hard to pick one that clearly stands out above the other. They are both extremely beautiful looking bikes, and I love the way they both ride. I'd say the Ducati is a easier bike to ride, but only because it is 14 years younger and loaded with riding aid technology. As I'm getting older, the lighter weight of the Ducati and the rider aids are much appreciated and welcomed. Both bikes have a level of exclusivity and uniqueness, but to get the same level of exclusivity from a Ducati, you need to invest a lot more money into a limited or special edition. MV Agustas also seem to come with many extras that are packaged together beautifully in stunning packages. The F4's manual was beautifully packaged in a booklet, with 2 keychains and not 1 but 2 spare keys. Buying an MV becomes an experience rather than a business deal. Conversely, purchasing the Ducati V2 was a memorable experience for all the wrong reasons. Not only was my owner's manual and spare key just thrown into a box with the passenger pegs and rear seat, but it was simply pay, roll the bike out, explain a few things, and off I go. I felt very underwhelmed. I know that MV Agusta have a huge problem globally with dealership support, but as soon as they can get this right, MV Agusta has the potential to take the world by storm once again. Coupled with the entry of the Reparto Corse team back into motorcycle racing, the possibilities are endless. My prediction is that if MV Agusta can fulfill their goal to enter the Premier class once again, we will see a large resurgence in sales for the brand, and the sleeping giant from Varese, Italy, could become a motorcycling legend once again. If you've reached the end of my video, thank you so much for taking the time to watch it until the end. I've put so many hours and research into this video, and a simple like and subscribe to my channel would mean the world to me. Alla prossima puntata. Until the next episode.